When we work from the corporate office, the UBA, I'm sure that you are using it right now, and if not, I hope that you will consider after this video to use it. When you click here on the UBA rules, you know that there are literally hundreds of rules that can help you detect abnormal behavior. You need to make sure that the rules are enabled and that the rule has all the pieces that are required. For example, let's say that you are interested in seeing whether somebody has stolen the credentials of some of your employees while working from home. Well, you can detect that if they log in from a site that is a prohibited location. This is the logic of the rule. I meant to click here on the prohibited location list, and this is a reference set that is by default populated in here. If you do business with one of these people, you may want to edit this particular reference set and modify it accordingly to what you do. But let me actually, before I go and continue on this path, let me actually go to the whiteboard because there's something I want to share with you. So in the corporate environment, you get, from your Blue Code or WebSense, whatever you use for proxy, your proxy logs, so you know where people are actually going. You have Windows logs most likely, or you have an EDR technology like Carbon Black of any one of those. You also have DNS logs to see the resolution on where people actually went to. And in the corporate environment, you even have the flows. And if you are sophisticated, you look into the payload, you have even Q&I. So you have a lot of visibility in it. However, when you work from home, like many people are doing these days, you access the corporate network through some VPN tunneling solution. There are multiple providers who have this. Now, so you are here on home, and there's going to be some reduced visibility because most likely you can get, let's say that you have an agent installed on your laptop that sends some proxy logs. There are some of them and they work well. Let's say that you have a Carbon Black type of agent that can actually send logs as well. Typically, you can force, depending on the corporate policy, the DNS logs to be resolved in the DNS resolver, and that protects you and tells you where you actually were trying to go. But it's unlikely that you will have, for example, Windows logs when you work from home that are going to the tunnel. Again, all this is possible, but everything depends on the corporate policy, and you need to know very well what is it that you have, and you probably already know, and so you know what products you use and how they are set up and how much visibility it is actually provided when you work from home. But one of the things that you definitely will have are VPN logs, right? And those are very good because that can provide information about geography login. So if you are concerned with your credentials being compromised, well, are people logging in from any prohibited location or outside of the allowed location? And we'll go into UBA a little bit more and show you that. And you may have some of those other components depending on the things that your corporate network and the way that you establish your VPN tunnel allows you to provide, right? So once you know that, it is important for you to actually take a closer look to the way that your UBA is actually set up. So in the case of this particular rule, we see it is enabled. We want to see what type of log sources can provide UBA information about this. So, well, what we need to do is click here on the actual documentation, and that takes us to a site. And if we scroll down here, we see the log source type that this rule actually works. And if you want to see, for example, the ones on VPN, if I search here for VPN, you see, okay, I have a Avaya VPN gateway. Oh, okay, this should work. And you should test these things to make sure that that they are being working in your environment. So for example, if you look for, actually look for some rules, for example, high risk user to critical assets, right? Well, again, I click on the actual logic of the rule, but you need to make sure that you have these reference sets in which you indicate in your company what your critical assets are, and you need to make sure that that rule is actually enabled. Otherwise, it's not going to be generating risk when this type of situation actually happen. If you have, for example, let's say that you have carbon black, and you still want to, if there is a carbon black agent, it should be able to detect when PowerShell is actually invoked. Well, there are rules in here that work with that. So I really encourage you to go by sections, again, by geography, by, obviously it's unlikely that you will have the benefit of the Q&I, but again, it depends on your architecture, the products that you use, and how much data it is. But it's important to go into every one of these sections, look at every one of the, well, actually I don't have anyone from geography, I put in 2 filters in here. So look at every one of these, make sure it's enabled, make sure that the reference set has the data that these things require for it to work, and going through every one of the sections to know when people are working from home, like massively right now, what are the things that you can and cannot see. And, hopefully you will be able to, for example, if somebody is logging from a site that is not supposed to be actually logging, you should be able to find use cases that specify that, this one, user access from restricted location. You can see that that person is accessing malicious website. Again, this can be either by the DNS resolution if the logs get to where they should. You should do DNS resolution when people are in the VPN at the corporate site. That protects them and gives you visibility. And if you have an agent that also forwards the traffic that people went to, and you can actually block. I mean, some agents can block access to some websites that it doesn't want you to. Again, it depends on the product that you actually use, but you should be able to get use cases like this one and then investigate what is it that the people are doing from home. But again, there's going to be a reduced visibility, but it's not that you're blind. UBA can still help you quite a bit there. It's actually look at this other risky site, Ronnie, and then you go in there and you're going to be looking at the particular use cases that UBA tells you about. And we see here some abnormal things. And this remember, this doesn't fire offenses. This add risk to the user. When the amount of risk accumulated over a period of time exceeds a particular threshold, then an offense is fired that invites you to investigate what it's doing. But when you get the VPN user, VPN login, you not only get, well, this guy's logging from, let's say, from France. Well, we thought that we have all the employees here working in the US because of the restrictions, but it can be that a particular user was left stranded in France and is working from there. Well, you know that that will be an exception. But these are the things that can help you investigate from the VPN logs. And also this one in particular is populate multiple VPN accounts, fail login from a single IP. Why is it that you get excessive login failures from the VPN and then all these sites that were actually accessed? Again, that depends on your setup, whether you get this level of visibility or not. It is important for you to make sure that you know and you can answer the questions. How are we using QRadar's UBA capabilities to protect the company when massive amount of people are outside the perimeter working from home?